How's everybody doing?
Good, Marcus.
Yeah.
What are your early impressions of Alik Terry so far?
Man, it's glad to have Coach Terry back. He was a GA obviously a couple years ago when I first got in, and so it's just great to have him back in his room. It was great to see him go on and do great things at Hawaii and then again at the league. I just love to have 5-5 back in the room. So it's all love with me and Coach Terry.
Is he going back to the techniques that mirror ball and crystal ball were doing versus what Clem was doing? I'm not saying better or worse.
Yeah.
Everybody can succeed doing whichever, but are you guys going back to what you're doing, or are you sticking with what Clem was doing?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. Obviously he's been to the next level, so he knows. He's seen different techniques. Obviously, I think it's not more so. It's just Coach Terry's technique. You know what I'm saying? He's mixing a little bit of Coach Clem, and he's mixing a little bit of Coach Miraball's in there. And he's also trying to figure out like who likes what. You know what I'm saying? A bigger center like Jackson, JPJ, might like a certain technique versus me. So kind of the growing pains right now. But that's what spring ball's for. So
We've seen you taking center snaps before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's where you're working. Looks like. So you feel like what is your perspective in terms of competing for that job and being in the mix at center now?
Yeah, center is a lot harder than people think. I played, like you said, I played center a couple times last year or whatever, just in practice from here and there, and over my time being out. But it's a different feel. You're kind of like you're the quarterback, you're the second quarterback of the offense. The O line kind of runs through you. You got to, you kind of got to know everything ins and outs. And you also got to assert your dominance while also getting the ball to the quarterback consistently. So that's kind of been my biggest, growing pain right now. But I'm gonna get to it. So
how much does the familiarity with Coach Terry help you schematically getting back into this?
Yeah, football is football. it wasn't a matter of like Coach Terry coming back and everything like that. That helped, but it did help to an extent. But like you say, football is football. So if you know football, it doesn't matter if it was God himself that came down to coach O-line. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody was going to, learn the same thing and everything like that. But it's good to have a familiar face back in this O-line room because that does put some, nerves and ease. It calms everybody down. So.
Manny was saying a couple weeks ago that he was really impressed by what Josh Connolly's done so far in the leap he's made. What have you seen from him so far this spring?
Yeah, body comp for real. You come in as a freshman like he did and just so young, you just get thrown into the fire. He's really sat down and kind of learned his playbook, honed in on his technique a lot more. And then also, too, he's changed his body in the weight room, increased and put some more body weight on him. I think he's up to like 300 if I'm not mistaken, so low threes. And just taking it seriously. I think last year, him getting a couple reps in, he kind of knows a little bit of the feel of the game. And he also saw vets, Alex, Walk, everybody across that old offensive line, how they perform day in and day out. So he's got to see that first person, and now he's taking the next step to being like, hey, even though he is, young or whatever, he's realizing like, hey, like, okay, this is how they did it, and the results that they got. Let me take that and put that in my toolbox and let me go, do what he do. So he's done a tremendous job of that in his offseason and in the spring.
Have you been getting the majority of your reps at center this spring, or have you kind of been bouncing around equally?
Bouncing around equally, yeah.
Obviously, some of the new guys, Johnny and Junior, get acclimated to this new offense.
Yeah, like I say, football's football. They've gotten acclimated to it. Still some growing pains. Obviously with a new offensive line and just us trying to get chemistry. A lot of continuity. Like that old line was there for 3 years, I believe. So it's a new line, it's a new face, and everything like that. So we just got to get used to it. But they're all doing good. And even some of the young guys, Pancho, that's his nickname in the O-line room. But Punch, he's doing good for being such a freshman, getting thrown in, and he's doing the same thing, bouncing back between center and guard, and he's doing a tremendous job. So shout out to Pancho.
How much do you think that versatility will help you guys during the season, being able to switch around?
Yeah. Versatility is the name of the game. It not only helps you in season, it just helps us as offensive line knowing that, hey, God forbid somebody goes down, we know we got this person that can dominate. They can insert them in and, not lose a step behind. So I think that's very much key, and that just puts a lot of us at mind in the O-line room. And I'm pretty sure it affirms the coaches that, okay, if somebody goes down, like we can have that same level of dominance and not drop off by putting X person in there or Y person in there. So
going back to it just being the second year of experience, it's going to help, you take it a little bit more seriously. Have you felt that just from the team in general with it being the second year under Coach Lanning?
Yeah. There's a lot of players that return on this offense and this defense, so like that first year, growing pains, you're trying to fill out a new coach and everything like that. Now we know the standard, we know, the areas in which we fell late last year, and we know we can't let those slide. So everybody around this coaching staff, this coaching and these players, Beau, me, Troy, T-Ferd, Bucky, Doyless, everybody, the whole nine, everybody knows what the standard takes to get to those points, and we got to make that jump from being good to great. And so that's kind of the emphasis of this spring, being from good to great. So
I was thinking at the January where, like, all right, after the bowl game, you guys get back. you know, whether it's a guard or center, you know you're in position to be in a starting capacity this season. All right, you know what Alex was doing in terms of meeting with Beau. What was your first meeting with Beau this offseason? When did it happen? How much time have you been spending with him, like Alex was, to just be on that page? I don't know, like, see, only 2 guys touch the ball every play.
I mean, it was one of those deals where I feel like for me, I just had to let the guys around me know. I had to get the comfortability and assurance from the guys around me that, hey, like, you know, like I was going to take that role into being a leader. And I really had to show them that I was going to do that before, you know, I stepped in with Beau. Then when I kind of did that, then me and Beau started talking and we were like, hey, you know, this, that, and the fourth. We just started talking schematics and everything like that, where he preferred me as and everything like that. So, I mean, it kind of, it happened, you know, but it's one of those things like we just kind of just kept going and everything like that. It wasn't like a sit down like, hey, like, you know, like a serious meeting, but, you know, it kind of just happened and we kept going.
Alex was doing things that no other center in the country was doing. Like calling audibles.
Literally
nobody did. The Remington didn't do it. All right. So it's unrealistic to ask anybody to do that.
Right.
In your own mind, how much of a gap do you think exists between where you are right now as you take into that role versus where Alex was outside of the play calling parts of it?
Yeah, I mean, Forsyth, I was under Forsyth's wing for, 3 years and everything like that, and I still talk to him, you know, as much as I can, you know. It's just all about reps and just watching film. You know, that's the one thing that man did. That man for sure worked. So, I mean, I put in work. So, stuff will happen, you know. I don't want people to, you know, make it seem like, oh, you know, Forsyth's gone, this offensive line is going to deteriorate, you know, just because he's not there. But yeah, no, everybody got some areas to improve in, and so does everybody in his offensive line and his whole team. Everybody got areas to improve in, so that's what I'm going to focus on the entire spring and fall camp, and, you know, we're going to see what happens after the season.
I know it's early, but what are your impressions of Mike Kavanaugh and kind of how he works with Halik Terry? What's that kind of dynamic like?
Yeah, no, it brings a lot of wisdom to the table, you know, 40-plus years in the game. Actually, I did not know this. He coached Coach Clem back in college, and that was just so surreal. But I didn't know, you know, he's got skin in the game. So he brings a lot of wisdom. You know, he's seen players all up and down the, you know, the depth charts or whatever, seeing guys all different sizes. So he's just a great wisdom in the back pocket, good insurance policies just to know, like, hey, we got another set of extra eyes in there that works well, meshes well with Coach Terry. So it's great to have him in that room.
George Silva, also one of the guys who arrived, and see him work with you guys on the first team. I know he's big dude out of the junior college ranks. Just other than his sheer size, you're all big.
Yeah.
What has he brought so far to the room?
Yeah, no, Joy's a goofball. I don't care what nobody say. Joy's goofy. He funny. You know, he just brings that versatility. Good God, he brings that versatility to the room. You know, he plays tackle and everything like that. You know, we just got to get him locked in on his technique and fundamentals and mastering those, and then, you know, he'll be a force to be reckoned with over the duration of the season. So.
Last year, you guys were in the college football playoff conversation for a good majority of the season. Some loud cars. It's all right. My question is of it. But what do you feel like you need to do to get to a point this spring, by the spring game, where you guys are feeling confident that you can be right back in that conversation heading into fall camp?
Like I said, we got to take that jump from being good to great. You know, too many times, you know, throughout the duration of the year, I feel like we hit a lull. You know, we just kind of got a little bit too comfortable in certain areas, and that showed. You know, the end of the Washington game and then the end of the Oregon State game. You know, it showed. So I think we as an offensive line, as an offense, as a defense, as a team, you know, the whole coaching staff, we just can't, you know, get complacent, because in that complacency, all it takes is just that however many minutes was left on that clock in Washington State game, and then the whole entire second half of Oregon State. So we just can't get complacent. And I think once we can't get complacent and we make that leap from being a good team to being a great team, you'll see us in the college football playoffs. So, yeah, because we got all the talent in the world. It's just we got to be consistent with it day in and day out. So.